Chapter 20. Logan's POV. My father, his beta Mark, third in command, Jake, Taylor, Wesley, the twins, and I were gathered in my father's office, discussing all the details we had, and forming a plan. I think it'll be better to move in on the same day Drake leaves. They won't expect us to strike so early, I told them, looking at the papers in front of me. We have to make sure to go in and leave unnoticed, my father said. How would we do that? Wesley asked, confused. Lexi, Blake and Blaine replied in unison and shrugged. Wesley looked at them in amusement but didn't comment on it. I've asked Wesley to live in one of the small cottages near the pack house, same as the rest of the pack. I didn't want Eva to see him yet, and I still had my doubts about him. Yeah, we can ask her to make us some potion to help mask our scents, Jake said, and I nodded in agreement. I took out my cell phone and dialed Alexis. Since she wasn't a werewolf like us, we couldn't mind link. Alexis picked up after the third ring. Yes, Logan, she replied through the phone. Can you come to my father's office right now? I asked. Sure, came her reply, and with that, I hung up. 5 minutes later, a knock on the door snapped all our heads towards it. Come in, yelled my father. Alexis opened the door and entered. We filled her in with whatever intel we had and asked her to prepare the correct potion. After we planned out everything, each one of us left for his own business. My business, of course, being Eva. I first entered our room but found it empty. A smile spread across my face at the thought that Eva didn't cower away and actually was trying to blend in. I was proud of my mate. I descended the stairs and made my way to the kitchen, but she wasn't there either. I searched the living room and game room, and still nada. My face turned to a frown, and I started to worry. I was about to search the garden when an ear-piercing scream echoed through the whole pack house. Without thinking, I started running towards the source, my feet leading me to Alexis's room. Her lab door was open. Eva! I heard someone yell from inside. Without bothering to knock, I entered the room to find Eva on the floor unconscious, and Alexis crouched beside her trying to wake her up. 1 second I was standing by the door, and the next I was holding Eva in my arms and running towards the pack clinic, mind-linking with Dr. Mitchell to come as fast as possible in the process. Eva, please wake up! Please say something! I pleaded as I held her in my arms on the clinic bed. I noticed my parents and the rest standing by the door looking at us worriedly. Excuse me, let me through, I heard Dr. Mitchell say as he made his way through the tiny crowd by the door. You have to step away, Logan. I need to check her, Dr. Mitchell said as he made his way towards us. I begrudgingly left Eva's side and looked at him as he checked her. I was fidgeting with my fingers and shifted from one foot to another. Each second passes, agonizing me more. Dr. Mitchell took a step back and removed his stethoscope from his ear. He turned to look at me with a smile tugging on his lips. Why is he smiling? Why the hell are you smiling? What is wrong with Eva? Is she okay? I asked frantically. He just shook his head in amusement and continued smiling. I was getting furious and was this close to ending his life. She's totally fine, Logan, Dr. Mitchell stated. She's asleep. I gaped at him. I probably looked like a fool in front of everyone earlier. Are you sure? I asked. Dr. Mitchell nodded his head. I released the breath I was holding. Dr. Mitchell said that she was just sleeping, but I was still doubtful. A person can't just fall to the ground like that and be sleeping. She wasn't even in bed. I didn't speak my thoughts and just nodded my head at Dr. Mitchell when he asked to leave. I picked up Eva and made my way towards our bedroom. I tucked her in and made sure she was warm before making my way downstairs. I figured that she'd be hungry when she woke up. I was in the process of making her a sandwich, the ladies talking around me and the men munching on random things, when we heard wailing and baby cries coming from the upstairs. We looked at each other in confusion, but when my gaze turned to Alexis, she was beyond nervous and kept fidgeting with her fingers. I didn't bother asking as the wailing intensified. I quickly made my way upstairs to check on Eva. Even though I was sure the baby cries weren't coming from her, I felt the rest of my mob following. I opened the door and to my surprise, Eva was the one making the baby cries. I ran up to her and held her between my arms. "Shh, baby, it's okay," I whispered into her ear as I gently ran my hand down her hair. "Mama!" Eva cried out. I pulled back and looked questionably at her. "What?" I asked, dumbfounded. "Mommy!" she cried again. I didn't know what to do. Why is she asking for her mom? And why is she crying like a baby? Alpha," I heard Alexis call from the door where everyone was standing, giving Eva the same weird look I was. "What?" I replied. She seemed nervous and was sweating like a pig. I think, she stuttered. "You think what, Alexis? Speak!" I ordered, making her shift in place, nervousness rolling off her in waves. "I think Eva drank the age-reducing potion," she said flatly. My eyes widened at her. "What?" I yelled. "When I found her lying on the floor, she had a potion bottle in her hand. I was, the age reduction potion," she explained nervously. "And what does that exactly mean?" I asked, bewildered. "Eva is a 3-year-old child now," she confessed, and my eyes weren't even in their sockets anymore. I looked back at Eva, who was still crying like a child. At Alexis's confession, I heard laughing echo through the room, making me glare directly at the twins. They were doubling over from laughter and had tears in their eyes. "Sorry, Logue, but this is hilarious," one of them said between fits of laughter. "Yeah, you'll have to babysit your mate rather than..." the other continued, laughing at the end. I narrowed my eyes at them and growled. They held their hands up in surrender, but still had their goofy smiles on their faces. I felt a tugging at my sleeve. I looked to find Eva's cries died down, and she was now pouting, her face stained with her earlier tears. Hungry," she said softly. "What?" I asked. I heard her say something, but what was that something? I had no clue. Hungry," she said again. I looked at my mom for help. She was trying to stop herself from laughing, most probably at how I look right now. "She's hungry, Logan. Hungry," my mother said, her face breaking into a huge smile as she tried to contain her laughter. "Oh," I said lowly, still waiting for the situation to sink in. "Oh," I yelled this time in realization. "I'll be right back," I told Eva, and ran to bring her food. I ran to the kitchen, finishing Eva's sandwich I was making earlier, and brought it up to her. As I was nearing my room, I heard crying again. I entered the bedroom to find the twins sitting on each side of her sides, with one of them dangling a lollipop in front of her. "Just give it to her, guys," my mom scolded. "You want it, little Eva?" one of the twins cooed as he wiggled the lollipop in front of Eva, her cries reaching a second level as she waved her arms, trying to reach it. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" I snapped at them, making the twin with the lollipop drop it and Eva's cries to stop, and she quickly snatched the lollipop. I fiercely slammed the food tray on the nightstand and practically threw the twins off my bed. I sighed deeply. "Too bad," Eva said grumpily, and I couldn't help but smile at her. "Alexis, when will the effect leave her body? When will she come back to normal?" I asked Alexis. "A day or 2 at the most," she replied. I sighed in relief. Again, I felt tugging at my shirt, and I turned around to gaze right into Eva's glazed eyes. "Yes, baby," I said softly. She didn't reply and only pointed towards the window. My eyes followed her finger, and I frowned in confusion. "Is there something out there?" I asked worriedly. On cue, Jake and Taylor ran to the window to check. "There's nothing, Logan," Jake stated. I turned my gaze back at Eva. She was still pouting and pointing her finger to the window while making urging sounds. "I think she wants to go out." My head snapped towards Chloe, then back at Eva to find her nodding her head vigorously. I raised my eyebrows at her, asking, "Really?" She nodded again. "Okay then," I said, and got up from my place. As soon as I wasn't near her, she took off running outside the room. "Eva!" I yelled after her, but she ignored me. I ran after her down the stairs and out the pack house, and as soon as her feet touched the soil, she ran with speed I've never seen before. She was even faster than me, a soon-to-be alpha. I had to stop in my tracks and gape at her, but quickly snapped out of it. I'm afraid I'd lose sight of her. Indeed, I did lose sight of her. I decided to follow her scent that's soon fading away. I was getting more nervous. She might get hurt, and that was something I don't want. Her faint scent led me to the lake nearby. I saw her crouched on the grass, playing with some tweeds and flowers. She was plucking them and arranging them into patterns. "Eva," I whispered quickly so I didn't scare her. Her head snapped towards me and she started scooting her body away. I was making my way slowly to her while she was, in return, scooting closer to the tree behind her until her back slammed into the trunk. This felt like déjà vu. "Baby, it's okay. I won't hurt—" But my words stuck in my throat at the sight in front of me. Eva's skin started taking the color of her surroundings. Her face, arms, and upper body took the color of the trunk she was leaning on. Even her toes took the color of the stray leaves and grass below them. Veins protruded from the trunk and covered Eva, making her invisible to see. If I wasn't there to witness her change, I wouldn't have been able to find her, ever. I heard a gasp, followed by an "awesome" coming from behind me. I turned around to see the crowd living with me had witnessed what just happened. I turned my head to Eva's direction, but I couldn't locate exactly where her eyes were since all I was seeing was a tree trunk and leaves. "Eva, can you please come? I promise I won't hurt you," I cooed, trying to gain her trust. "No, it's not Eva," she replied back. And that's when I realized how stupid I was. She's 3 right now, way before we met and way before she was sold. Of course she'd remember her name and where she lived. Maybe we could find her parents if they were still in the same house. "What is it then, sweetheart?" my mom asked softly. "I want you. Mommy said not to talk to strangers," Eva replied again, still hiding and invisible. "We're not strangers. We're friends," Chloe said. "We won't hurt you." Eva slowly started leaving her hiding spot and her skin color was coming back to normal. Will you get me ice cream?" she asked innocently. I nodded my head and smiled at her. "Yes, you can have all the ice cream that you want." "For breakfast, lunch, and dinner?" she asked in shock. I looked at my mom. "No, Eva, your stomach will hurt if you eat so much," Alexis said softly, trying to convince her. "I want ice cream," Eva said grumpily, stomping her foot on the ground and crossing her arms. "Your tummy will hurt you, Eva," I repeated. "My name is not Eva," she yelled and went back to hiding, her body taking the color of the nature and vines covering it. I sighed deeply. Okay. How about you just eat your sandwich, then you can eat whatever ice cream you want, I said, trying to get her out again and convince her. Just like I wanted, Eva came out of hiding. She looked at me with doe eyes, giving me a puppy dog look, and that's when I couldn't deny her anything. "How about we forget the sandwich and skip right to the ice cream," I told her weakly. The girl had me wrapped up around her little finger. "Logan!" my mother scolded. "What?" I asked innocently. "You saw how she looked at me," I defended myself. She sighed. "Currently, Logan, she's a kid and doesn't know what's best for her. We can't just give the kids whatever they demand or it'll be chaos around the world," my mother scolded again, with her hands on her hips. "Mom, it's not like she'll really eat ice cream 24/7, I retorted back. She sighed again. "Let's just go to the house and we'll see," she told me, and I nodded in agreement. I turned to look at Eva to find her sleeping. She was curled up in the fetus position, Her right thumb was inside her mouth while her left hand was curled into a fist. Her hair was laid around her and her lips slightly parted. She really did look just like a child. I looked at her in awe, and I was sure everyone was too. I gently lifted her up and held her flush against my body. "Leave it to the kids to sleep anywhere, any time," I heard Taylor say, as I made my way to the pack house, with them following in tow. When I reached my bedroom, I tucked Eva under the covers. I kissed her forehead lightly, then made my way out of the room and into the kitchen, where they were all gathered. I sat on one of the kitchen stools and sighed deeply. "Got it tough, huh?" my father asked. He kept silent the whole time, only watching in amusement and smiling. "It's not that bad," I replied. "Ha! You've seen nothing," my mother scoffed. "When you were a kid, you did things that would make the devil himself retire. You were his legacy," she said in exasperation. I looked at her with wide eyes. "Come on, Mom, I'm sure I wasn't that bad," I defended, to which my father started laughing. "I was going to kill you once, you know," my father said as he continued laughing at the memory. My mother seemed to have remembered what he mentioned and joined him in his laughter. "What happened?" one of the twins asked. "When you were about 5, you got it stuck in your head that you wanted to marry your mom," my father started, and I looked at him in shock. "You wouldn't let me touch her or even be with her in the same room. I was kicked out of my bedroom every night because you didn't want anyone to sleep next to your wife. You even tried to banish me from the pack and started terrible rumors about me," he continued, trying to stop himself from laughing. My mother and the rest, though, couldn't control themselves. "Ha ha, very funny, Dad," I said with narrowed eyes. "He's telling the truth, you know," someone said from the doorway, and we all looked to find my dad's beta standing there with a smug look on his face. They all started laughing again. This was getting frustrating and embarrassing. No way in hell did I do that. "Aw, baby Logan wanna marry his mommy," one of the twins sang annoyingly, if I might say. The laughter grew even more at this statement. "But talking seriously now, you've probably noticed that Eva knew about her powers since young, right?" My father spoke sternly. I nodded my head. "But that's not possible," Alexis said. Our heads snapped towards her. "In the book, it said that Gumhihos mature at the age of 20. Their tails and everything. I've also noticed something weird," she said, and I looked at her in confusion. "Normal Gumhihos have either red or brown tails, but Eva, her tails are fiery blue," she explained. "Is that good or bad?" I asked worriedly. She shook her head. "I really don't know." "We'll just have to wait and see. Only time will tell," my mother said reassuringly. "On the other hand," Jake started, "you really wanted to marry your mom, huh?" he asked teasingly. They all started laughing again, agitating me. "Stop ganging up on me," I yelled, and got up from my place. I angrily left the kitchen and towards the stairs when I saw Eva already on it. She was hugging the railing with both hands and trunk as she slowly and carefully descended the stairs, step by step. "You need help?" I asked in amusement at her attempts. "No," was her only reply. She didn't even bother to look at me, as all her concentration was on how she managed to reach the bottom. She placed one of her feet on the next step when the other foot slipped and she was about to fall. I quickly ran up to her and stopped her. "Eva, let me help you," I said as I held her elbow, steadying her. "My name is not Eva," she replied grumpily, obviously getting frustrated with me for not calling her by her real name. "Then tell me what your name is," I said gently. She seemed to be debating for a minute before she turned her head to the side and not so gently said, "Crystal." A smile spread across my face. Crystal. Her name was beautiful. I helped her descend the stairs and took her to the living room. "Mom!" I yelled. "Yes, dear," she replied jokingly. I heard laughter come from inside the kitchen at her joke. I took a deep breath to calm myself down. "Can you get Eva's sandwich to the living room? She's up," I yelled again. Okay, she replied back, and I heard clattering in the kitchen. I turned to Eva to see her looking at me intently. Would you like to watch something? I asked. SpongeBob! She yelled almost instantly. SpongeBob it is then, I said, and turned to open the TV. SpongeBob's opening song played, and Eva's face lit up happily. She started bobbing her head to the song and murmur whatever she knows from the song. I just sat next to her on the couch and watched her in amusement. My mom came in minutes later with Eva's sandwich, the crew following. Adults take control of the remote while the kids just sit and watch, one of the twins said, as he snatched the remote from Eva's hand and sat down on one of the armchairs. She dropped her sandwich back into its plate, all the while looking at the twins with a blank expression. She was keeping an awesome poker face. She slowly and calmly stood up from her seat and made her way towards him. The next thing you know is Eva's hand colliding with his face, sending his head to the other side. She snatched the remote back and innocently went back to her seat. We looked at her wide-eyed, and I could hear them around me trying to stop themselves from laughing. I, too, was struggling to keep control. Didn't expect that, did you? Jake asked teasingly. The twin got up and made his way towards Eva, a smirk playing on his face. Two can play at this game, you know, he said. I growled at him and pulled Eva closer to my body. Don't worry, Logue. I'll just get what she took from me, he said, and once again snatched the remote back. Eva took a deep breath, as in to calm herself. She stood up again, but the twin was towering over her. She tried to get the remote back, but the twin held it high up, where she can't reach. Give it to me, she whined, but to no avail. Fine, you can have it, she said, and crossed her arms over her chest when she realized that what she's doing is of no use. The twin smirked at her and went back to his place. Hawaii 5-0 was on, and a chasing scene was playing, when suddenly the TV screen went blank. We all looked around until our eyes landed on Eva standing next to the TV, the cable unplugged and in her hands. Again, chuckling and fits of laughter echoed around the room from her actions. Hey! The same twin yelled. Eva stuck her tongue out at him and ran upstairs. I chuckled and got up from my seat to follow her. When I reached my room, I found her sitting on the floor with a paper and pencil in front of her. What are you doing? I asked curiously. Drawing, she replied in a duh tone. I chuckled again and headed towards the bathroom. After finishing my business, I went outside to have a paper pushed to my face. I pulled my head back a bit and took the paper from an overexcited Eva. I looked at the picture. It was a drawing of a small girl and 3 adults standing next to my house. 2 men and a woman. It's very beautiful, baby, but who are these? I asked with a smile. See, that's me, she pointed at the little girl. I've already guessed that, though. That's Mommy, she pointed at the woman. That's Daddy, she pointed at the guy to her right. And that's Alpha Dwake, she finished, pointing at the guy next to her father. I looked up at her with wide eyes and raised an eyebrow. Eva, My words cut short as a slight knock came from the door. Come in, I said, and both my parents made an appearance. Hey, Mom, Dad, can you come see this? I asked them. Their faces turned to that of confusion as they headed towards us. I handed them Eva's drawing. They looked at it for a second and then looked at me questionably. Eva, can you tell my parents what you just told me? I asked, referring to the explanation of it. That's me. That's my mommy. That's Daddy, and that's Alpha Dwake. He's my best friend, she repeated. I averted my eye from Eva to my parents only to find them having the same astonished look as I am.